The Doomsday Machine was easily one of my all-time favorite Star Trek episodes. There's a lot of memorable scenes and just style and look to it. Now, granted, this Doomsday Machine itself was not that impressive looking. But, hey, look, it's been traveling a long time and probably got beat up a lot along the way. But basically the premise being that this is some sort of deadly alien weapon. And even Spock theorizes, based on its trajectory, that it came from outside the galaxy. And it's created by some society as a doomsday weapon, and it achieved its goal and then moved on, just constantly destroying planets. Another theory is that this is an old piece of the Death Star, and that's the galaxy it came from. That galaxy far, far away. And it's still blowing up planets. So anyway, that is the premise we have here. Kirk and crew arrive to this star system, and hey, there's planets missing and rubble and whatnot. And kind of similar to the Changeling, how that opened up to where they found, hey, what's going on? Everyone's dead. And there's this little robot out there killing everything. Well, this was much bigger, but it's still doing the same. Of course, I don't think, no, the Changeling didn't blow up planets. It just wiped out all the people on them. Yeah, that's what it did. But this one, no, it blows up the planets and then consumes the remnants of it as for fuel. And so it's just perpetual. And so as they're going, they're trying to make contact with another starship, the Constellation. And this is an episode, it's significant primarily because it gives you quite a display, I think, of the psyche of Captain Kirk and what troubles him the most. And in seeing Commodore Decker, this is kind of like his nightmare coming true. Here's a man whose command failed, and he lost his crew, and he's broken. He's a devastated, broken man as we see this. And so for Kirk to view that is just sort of the thing. He says, oh, God, I don't ever want to be in that position. You know? And yet for Decker's point, there was no way out. And that's another thing that they'll play on these things, certainly later in the movies, about the no-win situation and all that. And that's something Kirk just emphatically will not accept. And but what was the guy supposed to do? You know, this was... He was literally doomed. There was no way out. And of course, they come upon it, the ship, and this was some of the interesting things. Now I'm watching the new enhanced effects, so it looks really cool. But it was pretty good job they did of their damaged starship, which is obviously the same model as the Enterprise, but you know they're all the same design. And of all the damages it suffered, and it's this dead ship floating in space, and they come upon it. It's all damaged, and the damage of is very haunting. And of course, it's the same sets and everything, but that plays into the narrative of this could happen to the Enterprise. It happened to this ship, so it easily could happen to the Enterprise, and that's why this is such a terrible threat. They find Decker, and then they understand. He explains what's happened. They play his logs and everything, and they're trying to prevent what's happening with this monster robot thing that's attacking the planets. And, well, they lose. So the ship is badly damaged. There's really no hope. And so in order to escape, they beam down to one of the planets. Jeez. And Decker oversees this and decides he's the captain of the ship, so he'll go down with the ship. He remains on board the ship. But the robot doesn't attack the ship anymore. It's no longer deemed a threat. It decides to attack the planet. And so they're begging to come back, but the ship's damaged and the transporter doesn't work, and he can't beam them back up. And so he has to listen to them screaming as they die. So, yeah, it's perfectly understandable why he's in the state of mind he is. He's a completely broken man by the time Kirk finds him. Now, Kirk's reaction to him is rather harsh and hard to the man. He should be a little more sympathetic, but this is something Kirk fears. He doesn't want to be, Decker, and fears that he could be if he chooses wrongly, but in the case of this situation, what was Decker supposed to do, so anyway, of course, the Doomsday Machine shows up again, and they try to repair the Constellation up enough so they can carry it in tow. And as they're going, here comes the machine. It attacks, and they're separated. Kirk and Scotty and a few of the other away team are trapped on the Constellation. The Enterprise is damaged from the attack, so it can't beam them back. And they're cut off from one another for a bit. Well, Decker, of course, is desperate for revenge against the machine. He wants to destroy it, and he's trying to redeem himself in that manner. And so he takes command away from Spock. And that's some great little showdowns there where Spock is understanding this is not a good idea. The guy is not fit to command, but McCoy can't declare him unfit because he hasn't had the chance to examine him to do it properly under the regulations and what. And Spock is like, well, it's regulations, so he has to obey it. And so Decker takes command, and what does he do? He orders Sulu to attack the Doomsday Machine, which they have no chance, and Spock points this out. You've already tried this with the Constellation. It didn't work. And he says, I shot wrong or something. I don't know. The hull of the Doomsday Machine is impossible for phasers to destroy it. They just can't do it. And so they have no chance. Meanwhile, Kirk manages to restore some of the capabilities of the Constellation, and he's able to get on the view screen and see what's going on. He says, holy crap, what the hell? Why is the Enterprise attacking that monster, And so we got to get over there. So they do, and for whatever reason, Scotty manages to restore a phaser bank for the Constellation, so Kirk is able to fire at the Doomsday Machine in order to distract it away from the Enterprise to give them a chance to escape because they're about to be destroyed. All this sort of stuff, and this is where the confrontation, where Kirk basically orders Spock to take command of the Constellation. Now, technically speaking, I don't know that Kirk really had the wherewithal or the right to do so, but Spock agrees to it, and there they go, and Commodore is sent to sickbay for an examination, which of course McCoy would then declare him unfit and whatnot. But he escapes. He beats the crap out of the security and then heads to a shuttlecraft and decides to drive the shuttlecraft into the mouth of the Doomsday Machine. And he's completely lost his mind at this point and is, haunted by what happened to his crew. And it's pretty much the only real end for Decker. But as a result of doing this, their analysis shows that, yes, there is some damage in the interior of the Doomsday Machine. And so Kirk surmises, well, if we dropped a starship in there with the antimatter goings-ons of the warp engine, how does it work? Who knows? But the explosion inside the interior of the Doomsday Machine would do enough damage to destroy the machine. And so they do this, and Kirk says, hey, I'll beam out. Well, of course, the transporter breaks down and all that, but then it brings a pretty good dialogue that I always liked. Well, Kirk is waiting, and he calls it, gentlemen, beam me aboard. And of course they do. At the last possible second, Kirk beams aboard, and there they go. And then they kind of run over and say, hey, back in the old days, the H-bomb was supposed to be the Doomsday weapon, so they can comment on current times at the time the show was put out. Yeah. But the point is taken that, a Doomsday weapon is one you're never supposed to use. You do it as a bluff, but if you ever do, then yes, it's Doomsday. So whatever species had created the device, they were extinct. They were all gone, and this thing was floating through space, just eating up planets. Now, interesting thing here. This is the sort of thing that could be returned to. At this point, I really don't want anything from Kurtzman and crew doing that. But it is a certain element that you would think that the Federation would go back, would have to, really, and grab that thing and either dismantle it or store it where they think probably they would keep it. I don't know. But you can't just leave it floating out there. If someone reignited it, they'd try to use it, So, there's possibilities there for a follow-up if they wanted to. The other little thing is, of course, Decker has a son who is supposed to be the captain of the Enterprise in the motion picture, but Kirk takes his command away. And, of course, he ends up with Ilea, I believe her name, the bald lady who is the precursor to Counselor Troy, and Decker is the precursor to Riker, but that's who he was. He was the son of Commodore Decker, and he ends up becoming part of V'ger and traveling the cosmos or whatever at the end. But so there you go. There's the little connections there for that. And boy, I kind of wonder if what V'ger was is that's the same group that made the Doomsday Weapon and the Changeling. I don't know, but anyway, so this was actually a very good episode with plenty of suspense and ship action, and of course it's one of those that had to have been done on the cheap because they want to save money by doing, hey, we're going to do an episode on the ship, even though story-wise it takes place on two different ships. Of course, it's the same sets. They just made the little wires hang down and everything to make it look like, oh, the Constellation is damaged, all that stuff. But boy, it just works out, and it's well orchestrated for that purpose. And so yeah, a very, very good one. The Doomsday Machine is an excellent episode of classic Star Trek. Thank you for watching and listening. Say, why not like and subscribe? Check out that link description below. That'll take you to my many stores that have plenty of goodies for you. Yes, that's right, you. Most notably, my comic book Night Night over at IndiePlanet.com. And you can catch my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And yes, you can watch my videos on that other .com, BitChute.